I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The deposition transcript that was just released of Donald Trump's deposition from back in April of this year in connection with New York Attorney General Letitia James' $250 million civil fraud case against Donald Trump. It's not only just devastating, it's not only bad for Donald Trump in the civil lawsuit where monetary damages are at stake. Frankly, I think it is incriminating and has devastating implications for the fact that the Manhattan District Attorney is continuing to investigate Donald Trump for criminal conduct regarding the same conduct at issue in the civil case, which is Donald Trump's fraudulent valuations. And one of the reasons I thought the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, was so smart in the order with which he prosecuted Trump cases was the first case that he prosecuted, of course, is the hush money payment case where Donald Trump paid off a adult film actress, Stormy Daniels, to cover up the fact that he had a few seconds of sex with her before that ended very abruptly and very quickly, and then wanted to cover it up before the 2016 elections, then misclassified the money fraudulently as legal expenses. So that case has been prosecuted and being prosecuted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Donald Trump has been indicted there. But the bigger case on the fraudulent valuations, that's still in an investigation posture. And one of the things that Alvin Bragg said that upset many people at the time was, he said, I'm not ready to prosecute yet. I'm not ready to seek an indictment yet. I'm going to go at my own schedule, not when public pressure tells me that I should do it. So what is the data that has developed over the course of the past year to 18 months since Alvin Bragg previously said that he was not ready to prosecute Donald Trump for the financial valuation case? Well, Donald Trump went from invoking his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination in the special proceeding when New York Attorney General Letitia James was in a mere investigatory posture to now, because the case was headed to trial and Donald Trump realized that if he did not testify, the jury would be allowed to take an adverse inference against him, meaning if Trump invoked the Fifth in the civil case the second time he was deposed with New York Attorney General Letitia James, the jury could infer, well, the reason Trump is not answering these questions is because he's trying to cover up the liability he's being accused of in the civil case. So with Donald Trump's money on the line, that induced him to waive his Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination and to testify. And wow, in my opinion, he incriminated himself over and over again in this deposition, frankly, admitting to inflating his assets, which isn't just a civil wrong, isn't just a tort, isn't just something you could be sued for. It is something that is also at the heart of the criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney. So I can see a world, and I don't think the Manhattan District Attorney does it until after the trial happens. What the Manhattan DA, I think, is going to wait for is this trial set to take place early October, brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James. If I'm Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, I'm just saying, look, I'm going to wait to see all the testimony. Trump's going to have to testify again in the New York Attorney General case. There's going to be a lot of other witnesses. Let's let that develop my case. And if and when, I believe, New York Attorney General Letitia James prevails and there's a verdict against Trump, well, then's the appropriate time to bring a criminal case within the applicable statute of limitations provided by criminal law. So now there's a treasure trove of evidence that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has. A 7-hour deposition of Donald Trump being pure malignant narcissist Donald Trump, ranting and raving like a lunatic and saying things like, well, I had the strongest worthless clause in all of my statement of financial condition. You know what a worthless clause is? It means that my statement of financial conditions could be totally false and misleading. As long as there's a worthless clause, it renders my entire statement of financial conditions worthless. Thus, I could misrepresent and lie and not tell the truth about what my underlying assets are, what the valuation is. The worthless clause prevents people from taking legal action against me. That's actually not what the law is. He can call it a worthless clause. It's called a disclaimer. Your disclaimer cannot be materially misleading. And the disclaimer at issue here also hedges because Donald Trump's former accounting firm, Meiselas, basically said, you can't rely on us. We're just getting this information from Donald Trump. And presented with that, Donald Trump's like, well, Eric did it. I'm not sure. I wasn't even involved in this in the past 5 to 6 years doing statement of financial conditions. Eric was involved in it. But more than just throwing his son under the bus and just saying the worthless clause means I can do whatever it is that I want, some of the incriminating lowlights of this deposition, highlights from the perspective of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who's probably salivating at all of this incriminating evidence. Donald Trump claiming that his NFTs now sell for as much as $82,000 on the resale market. You have Donald Trump claiming in the deposition that Mar-a-Lago is worth $1.5 billion, that his Miami Doral hotel, he says it's worth billions and billions of dollars. He claims that with respect to the Turnberry property overseas, he goes, sure, it may have been inflated. By the way, if it was inflated, that's Eric's fault. But you know what? I'm pretty confident that we could get the Saudis, who will, what he said over and over again, we can get the Saudis and they would pay an absolute fortune for Turnberry. He says this, and he goes, because I was the president, horrific for me to say that, because I was the president, my brand is just so hot right now. And so you think about the brand of like Coca-Cola and you think about what they could sell for. Yeah, the Saudis would come and they would just buy all this property. So Trump's defense to inflating the valuations of his properties was, one, he claims he had a worthless clause, that everything he says is worthless. Or two, he can put outrageous valuations if he thinks it makes sense to him without reference to an appraisal, because he says the Saudis would come in and spend whatever amount of money Donald Trump wanted to buy his properties. At the same time, Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, received $2 billion from the Saudis to manage their money after Jared Kushner, who couldn't get a security clearance at all, led our Middle East policy. MBS, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, bragged that he had Jared Kushner in his pocket. They play their golf tournaments at Donald Trump's properties while Donald Trump gives press conferences or interviews spreading 9/11 conspiracy theories. And Donald Trump is in a deposition saying that he can get a fortune from the Saudis for any of his properties. And by the way, he admits that some of the properties are inflated. He just says, I just use my common sense and that's how I come up with these valuations. So you have Donald Trump essentially admitting to the inflated valuations, recognizing that he just basically makes up these numbers and they're not tethered to reality. It's kind of how he feels. He also claims that he doesn't even know. He's no kind of financial controls. He blames Weisselberg and blames Eric. So interesting strategy by New York Attorney General Letitia James' legal team. Like, they did not go in for a cross-examination of yes or no, Mr. Trump. Is this the case? They just let him talk. And I think that was the perfect talk, incriminate yourself, prove how liable you are. And then Tish James files the summary judgment motion. Then it's like, here's the deposition, Alvin Bragg, here you go. And Alvin Bragg's like, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll wait for trial. But I believe if New York Attorney General Letitia James is successful at this trial, and I believe she is, and the trial is going to happen, by the way, in the next 45 days, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, I think, will then make the decision to impanel another grand jury. And I think that there will be another indictment against Donald Trump. It won't be a superseding indictment. It'll just be another indictment, I think, that will be taking place. So I know a lot of commentary. I haven't seen this commentary anywhere. So mark the tape, because I think in about 6 to 9 months, we'll be watching this and we'll say, well, just like with the other predictions that were made, this is another one that's accurate that no one else has been talking about. But we will see, but that's where the data is moving us in that direction. Make sure you go. Have you checked out patreon.com/MeidasTouch? Get the origin stories of Michael Popak and Karen Friedman Agnifilo. patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check that out. And otherwise, go to MeidasTouch.com. Have a great day.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.